ज्ञानतिमिरन्दस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनाशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णप्रेष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्तस्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेषशून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौ भक्तवृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, thank you all for joining in once again for the 9th episode of Bhagavad Gita. It's not a 9th episode, it's 10th episode. We couldn't complete the 9th chapter yesterday, so we are continuing with it today. So we have a lot to cover, a lot to discuss. So let's begin with it without any delay. So I'll do a very quick and short review of what we did last time or yesterday. I'll not go much in details. So the first 3 verses, the Rajavidya Rajguhyam Idam Uttamam, the knowledge which Krishna is about to reveal in the 9th chapter was glorified, was established as the king of all knowledge. And Krishna said, Arjuna, I'm about to give you the most confidential knowledge. And what is that most confidential knowledge? Which will be revealed in today's section from verse number 26 to verse number 34. After that, establishing the glories of transcendental knowledge, then Krishna spoke about his inconceivable potencies or relationship with the material world and the spiritual world. And he concluded with Maya Adhyakshena Prakriti Suyate Sa Chara Acharam. Arjuna, I am the controller, the supreme director of the material nature. This Prakriti functions under my direction. In 7th chapter, Lord Shri Krishna has spoken a similar verse. Devi yesh gunamai mamamaya duratyamam evai prapadyante maya metam tarantite. In that chapter 7, in this particular shloka 14th verse, Krishna said, the Prakriti, the material nature, is insurmountable. Nobody can cross over it. But one who takes my shelter can cross over it. And how one can cross over? By taking shelter of Krishna. Krishna says in the 9th chapter, in this particular verse that we're discussing, Maya Adhyakshena Prakriti Suyate Sacharacharam, because that is under me. I am the controller of it, therefore it is made possible to go beyond it. After that, there was a discussion on Mudas, the fools who cannot stand to the Lord. And even if they know, even if they are totally knowledgeable in the scriptures, yet they do not have the right conclusion. And they become more and more illusioned by the material nature. Who are Mahatma is the one who surrenders to the Lord. What are their activities? They're always chanting, glorifying, Nitya, Namasyantas Chamam Nityam, offering their respects unto me. They're always engaged in my devotional service. And for this, I had given an example of King Kulashekar to help you understand this. After this, Lord Shri Krishna talks about 3 kinds of worships, which is, Krishna said, is being done avidhi purvakam. Rather than direct worship, they are doing indirect worship. We have taken this example yesterday. And what is that? First, they worship considering oneself to be God. Second, they consider the different elements of Prakriti to be God, or Prakriti to be God, or nature to be God, and also the worshipper of Devatas. And third, the Vishwarup. They worship Vishwarup as a Supreme Personality Godhead. So Krishna calls them less intelligent because they're trying to reach the Supreme Lord rather than directly, but indirectly. That is the point is being described here. And that's what we saw. And today we're going to begin our discussion from the 20th verse onward. 20 to 25th verse, which we're going to take it in a form of a little presentation or question answer to help you understand the subject matter. So this presentation, which we are about to give you now, will briefly describe the relationship between the Lord, Supreme Personality Godhead, Lord Vishnu or Krishna, the feminine counterpart, Radharani, Lakshmi, Saraswati, etc., then Lord Shiva, and also the Devatas. Who are they? Is what we're going to have a discussion. If Krishna is that one God, what about others? Is a question being raised. There are four eternal truths: Vishnu Tattva, Shakti Tattva, Shambhu Tattva, Jiva Tattva. What is Vishnu Tattva? Vishnu, his name is more discussed in scriptures. Why? Because he is responsible for the universal management and administration, like that. So that's what Vishnu means. So who are this Vishnu? There are three Vishnus, or three types of Vishnus. Narad Pancharatra speaks about it. Vishnustu Trini Rupani Purushakhyani Yato Vidu Ekam tu Mahata Shrashtar Dvityam Tva Andasam Sitam Trityam Sarvabhutastham Tani Gnanatva Vimuchyate. Matlab, for the purpose of material creation, Lord Shri Krishna explains himself into three Vishnus. Mahavishnu, who lies in the Karana ocean and from whose breath comes out the universes. Then Garbhadaksha Vishnu, that Mahavishnu expands himself as Garbhadaksha Vishnu, enters into each and every universe, and from whose Garbha comes Brahma. And then this Garbhadaksha Vishnu further expands into a Kshirodaksha Vishnu, who resides as Paramatma in the heart of every living entity. Like that, Lord Krishna expands in these three Vishnus in the material world, according to Narada Pancharatra. So what is the relationship between Vishnu Tattva and Jiva Tattva? The origin, the Supreme Personality Godhead is Krishna, who expands as Balaram, who expands as Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Anirudh. These all are the Vishnu avatars in the spiritual world. Then there is an expansion of Narayana. All of these expansions are for particular specific function. They have a particular role to fulfill, and they're not different from each other because they all are Vishnu. Then from Narayan comes another set of Vasudev, Sankarshan, Pradyumna, Anirudh, from whom comes Mahavishnu. Mahavishnu se Garbhodakshay, from Garbhodakshay, Kshirodakshay, Paramatma, who enters into the material world, into the heart of every living entity. Like that, Lord Shri Krishna, as an expansion of Vishnu, accompanies a living entity life after life. This is about Vishnu Tattva in summary. What is Shakti Tattva? According to Vedic wisdom, the Lord is not only masculine but also is feminine form. Therefore, in our culture, we don't worship only the masculine form, we worship both the feminine and masculine form. Just like the mantra that we chant, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Ram, Ram Ram, Hare Hare, where Hare is a form of invocation which refers to Srimati Radha Rani. In other words, we are chanting Radha Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Radhe Radhe. Like that, we are chanting this mantra. So, as we know of, we always address Sita Ram, Lakshmi Narayan, Radha Krishna. Like that, we always address the Lord along with the feminine counterpart. So, Lord Shri Krishna expands as Balramji, the Balramji who takes care of all the pastimes of the Lord, all the management of all the creation of the Lord's pastime. Whereas Radha, the word Radha comes from the root word Aradhana. Aradhana means to worship. The word Radha in itself means one who has been created as, to serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is nothing but the pleasure potency of the Lord is said to be Srimati Radharani. And that Srimati Radharani further expands in the spiritual world as Mother Lakshmi, from Mother Lakshmi to Saraswati, Durga, etc., all the feminine forms. Then we have Shambhu Tattva. So if you remember, in 2 days before, we had given you the presentation of material world to the spiritual world. In that presentation, if you remember, when we had crossed the Brahman, beyond the Brahman, at the first intersection of the spiritual world, there was great Kailash or Kailash planet, or the abode of Lord Shiva, who is known as Shambhu or Mahashiv. Mahashiv always resides in the spiritual world along with Parvati. That Mahashiv appears in the material world as Shiva or Rudra, who takes birth from the center of the eyebrows of Lord Brahma. Rudra means 11. The purpose of Shiva is for destruction. The pralaya is brought about Lord Shiva. So Mahavishnu and Shiv are not different in a sense. Mahavishnu, to perform the function of destruction As we discussed last time, the creation and destruction is a continuous Leela which goes on into this material world. Just like sunrise, sunset, sunrise, sunset. Similarly, creation, destruction. For the purpose of creation, Vishnu personally expands as Mahavishnu, Garbhodaksha Vishnu. And for the purpose of destruction, that is accomplished through Lord Shiva. Therefore, in this regard, Brahmaji says, in Brahma Samhita, he says, if Lord Vishnu is like a milk, then Lord Shiva is like a yogurt, a transformation of milk into yogurt, like that. Milk and yogurt example. Then we have Jiva Tattva, which is 400,000 varieties, includes all human species, all Rakshasas, all Devatas. Everyone is included, up to Brahma is also a Jiva Tattva. So what is the difference between Devatas and Jivas? The difference is as much as you have a chief minister or prime minister of a country and a normal citizen. Prime minister is not an individual's property. Prime minister is a post and position. So does any administrative post in the government. They are positions that do not indicate or represent a particular person. Similarly, the post of Brahma, the post of Indra, these are positions. These are not representing a particular person. For example, Surya Dev. Does anyone know the name of Surya Devta? We have already discussed. Bhagavad Gita gives the name of Surya, sun god. What is the name of sun god? Who knows the answer? Hare Krishna. I believe.
Aditya.
Okay, Aditya. Aditya is another name. But what is the sun god name is given in Bhagavad Gita?
Ravi. Sorry.
Vivaswan. Vivaswan is the name which is given. Correct. We saw that, right? Fourth chapter, verse number 1, Vivaswan. So like that, these are positions, different position where we have jivas occupying that position. So how does the jivas occupy these positions? These are appointments done directly by the Supreme Personality of Godhead based on the pious credit. Story comes in Mahabharata that at one point of time, Indra, the one who was holding the post of Indra, had committed a very abominable act, because of which he had to go and take shelter of Mansarovar and perform tapasya for 1,000 celestial years. So for 1,000 celestial years, the post of Indra was vacant. At that point of time, Agni, Vayu and other devatas came together to figure it out who can be appointed as next Indra. And then when they looked through the profiles of the most pious men in the creation, they found the king of that time of the Bharatvarsh, whose descendants later on were Pandavas. King Nahusa was approached with a request to occupy the post of Indra. All the devatas came and approached a human, Nahusa, King Nahusa, whose descendants were Pandavas, to come and become the king, occupy the post of Indra. And later on, Nahusa agreed, and that's how Nahusa became the next Indra. So scripture says, one who perform 100 Ashwamedha Yajna gets to occupy the next post of Indra. So these are all positions. So there's no difference in terms of the tattva. Only thing is, just like a chief minister, a cabinet minister, home minister, etc., they're appointed personalities. So they have a lot of powers invested into that position. So whoever gets that position inherently acquires all the powers. Just like what is the post of Indra means? Whoever sits on the post of Indra, like Nahusa was not willing to accept that post. He said, I am so inferior in strength as compared to you. Devta says, don't worry, you come and sit on the post of Indra. By default, you'll acquire all the strength of all of us combined together. So like that, along with the post comes, along with the position comes all the powers. So that is what the difference meaning of Jiva Tattva. Moving forward, so there are 4 tattvas: Vishnu, Shakti, Shambhu and Jiva Tattva. So some questions on this. If Krishna is that one God, then who are the Devatas? Who are Devatas? As I said, these are nothing but Jivas who are provided with a powerful body and a lot of powers invested in them to perform the administrative tasks for which they have been hired. To help you understand this, let's take a case of a company. Any administrative structure of a company would have sales head, finance head, marketing head, purchase head, support head, accounts head, right? And all of these positions have certain power invested into it, and they're considered powerful people. So let's talk about the administration of this whole entire universe. It's a huge universe. For example, let's talk about a state. I don't know how much you are aware of how many government officials are involved in managing the affairs of the state. Maybe the top boss is the chief minister, but along with chief minister, they are down to the gram panchayat. There are hundreds and hundreds and layers elected officials who are working at different levels of managing the affairs of the state. So we are told that there are 33 koti, means 33 crore devtas. So most of the Indians have no clue about it. What is the 33 crore devtas? You're about to get a clue and an answer for this particular question right now in a short while. Let's take a look at it. So let me ask this question to all of you. This is going to be a rapid fire round. You have to be very quick on your chat box and you have to write an answer. When we talk about the administrative structure of the universe, so who is the electricity minister of our universe? What is the correct answer? What do you think? The correct answer is Surya Devta, the sun god. All right. I hope you got some clue. Let's talk about the next one. Who is the construction minister?
Lord Brahma.
Oh, okay. You are smart. You spoke directly. Okay. Correct. Brahma. Who is the water minister?
Lord Indra.
Vayu. Sorry.
Varuna, the ocean god. He is a water minister. So we discussed about the water minister, Varun, the ocean god. Unfortunately, in my Hindi presentation, I didn't have this kind of interaction. So you will get the answer upfront. So I will not be able to have a rapid fire. So who is the water distribution minister? That is Indra, right? Who is the Urja Mantri? That is Agni, the power minister. Who is the Vayu minister? That is Pavan Devta. Who is the home minister? Durga Devi, law and order. Who is the defense minister? King Kartikeya, right? Or not King Kartikeya, Kartikeya. Who is the education minister? Mother Saraswati. Now, I will not show the slide, but let me ask the question to all of you. Who is the human resources minister? Who does the HR hiring and deployment of resources in the universal affair? Let's make a wild guess. What's the answer according to you? Who does the human resources? Takes
Narada Muni.
Okay, Narada takes a person from here, dispatches him there. What's the correct answer? Quick guesses.
Narad.
Okay, Narad Muni. You all are fond of Narad Muni. Unfortunately, it's not Narad Muni. It's none other than our Yamaraj ji. मानव संसाधन मंत्रालय के जो मंत्री हैं वो यमराज जी है. Okay, like this. विपत्ति हरण मंत्री गणेश जी, फाइनेंस मिनिस्टर is कुबेर जी, मानसिक स्वास्थ्य मंत्री चंद्रदेव, etc. So I just walk you through with the administrative structure. I hope you got the answer. Why we have 33 crore devtas? They are very less for the whole universal management of this whole massive creation. Within the state, when we have hundreds and thousands of, government officials, like that, we have 33 crore devtas. So now coming to the next question, is it, this question is, I'm asking this question to all of you, is it diminishing to address these great beings as demigods or little gods? Yes or no? What do you all think? Is it in some way insulting to them when we call these 33 crore devtas as demigods, like Indra, demigod, Ganeshi, demigod? Is that by any chance insulting? Yes or no? Or maybe you can say, I don't know. So at least I know what you know or not know.
Prabhu, because during our upbringing, we were not taught the roles and the position of, so we thought they all were gods, So when you call them demigod, you feel little insulted, like yes,
Correct.
more.
Correct. So that's the point. Let's address this question clearly. It's a very important question. So you have a post of a, let's say, a president in a company, isn't it? So if you call that president, you have a president, and the next to president is a vice president. And then in that company, you have a software engineer level 1. So now if you compare a software engineer level 1 with a vice president, is vice president an honor or an insult? It's obviously an honor.
Honor.
That's it. So demigod is an honor, not an insult. And as Krishna Chandraji very rightly said, because we have come into a culture where we are taught that they're all the same level, that's the reason we felt a little uneasy. But when you understand the president, the supreme CEO is one, and the next assistant CEOs or vice presidents, then it's not derogatory. Is that making sense? All right, so let's move forward. So what is the difference between the Supreme Lord and the Devatas? The difference is very clear. First, the number. There is only one Supreme Lord, whereas Devatas, there are 330 million, which comes up to, I believe, what? 33 crores. What is a post? Eternally the Supreme. There is no competition to the post of Supreme Lord Krishna. However, Devatas, as we discussed Pralay 2 days before in our 8th chapter, at Pralay, there's different personalities, keeps on changing the position. Residence for Lord, Supreme Lord is Vaikuntha, eternal abode. But for Devatas, the material world, when material world destroys, everything gets destroyed. Activity to love, eternal bliss is what is being performed by the Lord Shri Krishna. By Devatas, administrative, like Durga, administrative activities, like that. Their body of the Lord is eternal, but body of Devatas is, of course, far better than the bodies of us on the earthly planet, but still it is made up of Prakriti, like that. Let's take a quick FAQs on the subject of Krishna and Devata. And then we'll come to the last subject matter of this chapter, the most comprehensive knowledge. What is the difference between worshipping Krishna and Devata? A very big difference. Krishna gives what we need, demigod gives what we want. Simple example, a child goes to a shop and he pays 10 rupees and asks for a cigarette. If you own a cigarette shop, would you ever say no? Because your only concern is with the money. You'll take the money. Take an example. I don't know if I asked you. Do any one of you remember any example of any bhakta, any worshipper of Lord Vishnu? Before worshipping, he could be as demoniac as possible. But after he worshipped, or let's say after he got the blessing of Lord Vishnu, did the same demoniac person, did he continue with his demonic activities or did he become saintly? Saintly? Ratnakar, Megari the hunter, so many examples are there, isn't it? Take a case of Ravana, Hiranyakashipu, all were worshippers of Brahma, and then Ravana later on became worshipper of Shiva, like that. We have Vrakasur, worshipper of Lord Shiva. Ashwathama, he was worshipper of Lord Shiva, got the boons. Jayadrat was a worshipper of Lord Shiva. So if you see, these people were demoniac before, and after the boon they became more demoniac. Yes or no? Is that point clear? That is the point. Because Krishna is on the role of a loving mother and father, so he knows what is good for us, will only give what is good for us, will not fulfill our demands. Whereas Devatas, 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita, Krishna establishes a mutual dependency between the Devatas and the Jivas. The Devatas gets nourished by the yajna performed by the Devatas, and the ahuti which is offered in the yajna nourishes the Devatas. In return, Devatas being pleased by the yajna and sacrifices performed by the Jivas on this planet, they fulfill the desires or the demands of the living entities. This is a mutual dependency which Lord Shri Krishna describes in the 3rd chapter of Bhagavad Gita he has created. So therefore, the relationship between Devatas and their worshippers, upasaks, are generally of a business dealing. I do this for you, and in return, you do this thing for me. Is generally the attitude in the case of a worship of the Supreme Personality, or in the case of worship of demigod worshippers, like that. Let's go forward. B. Only Krishna can award liberation and not the demigods. Hiranyakashipu wanted to become eternal. Brahma said no. Ravana wanted to become eternal. Again, Brahma said not possible. So what are the differences in the worshippers of Krishna and demigods? The motive to worship Krishna is love and service. For demigods, material desires. What do they grant? Lord Shri Krishna gave what we need as parents. Demigods gives whatever we want as shopkeeper. The blessings of the Lord are eternal. Blessings of demigods are temporary because they are themselves not eternal. That's the reason Brahma is never able to award liberation or eternal life to anyone. So question comes, if that's a fact, then why do demigod worshipper is recommended in the scriptures? The demigod worship is recommended in the scripture is just to establish, the authority, the culture of authority, because every living entity here wants to become the supreme authority. So therefore, to establish that you are not the supreme authority, you are dependent at all times, at least understand, if you cannot approach, for example, Ravana, Hiranyakashipu, and all the demons would hate Vishnu, yet you will find them worshipping Brahma or else Lord Shiva, isn't it? So at least that much understanding they had, so at least they'll make some progress. That is the whole idea, so that they remain true to some aspect of Vedic knowledge. Is demigod worship condemned in scriptures? As I already said, Bhagavad Gita, Lord Shri Krishna, 3rd chapter, himself establishes demigod worship through the yajna, through the process of yajna. It is not condemned. What is condemned as by Krishna himself in the 7th chapter and then in the 9th chapter, verse number 21 to 25, is the motivation by which the worshipper approaches the demigod. That motivation for the selfish desires, temporary gains, that is being condemned by Krishna because that keeps us bound to the material world, which is in return brings more suffering to an individual. That's the reason Krishna chastises that. Next question, is it practical to worship all the demigods independent of Krishna? Well, is it really practical? Well, you tell me, is it practical? You have 33 crore devatas. How would you worship 33 crore devatas? You can worship 33 crore devatas, or you can worship one Supreme Personality of Godhead. For example, if you want to nourish the tree, want to water the tree, would you go and water the leaf, or would you go and water the branch, or would you water the root of the tree? Krishna is the root of this whole creation existence. If we worship him, but naturally everyone becomes pleased. Can I approach Krishna if I have material desires? A lot of time people ask this question, they have this question in their mind. Well, yes, Lord Shri Krishna in 7th chapter, verse number 16, please mark this verse for yourself, already defines Chaturvidha bhajante mam jana sukritano arjuna arthothati jikyasu jnanita chabarata sabaha. Krishna said there are 4 kinds of pious living entities come to my shelter: those who are distressed, those who want wealth, those who are inquisitive, and those who want to worship me. 6th question, would the demigods get angry and punish me if I divert my attention to serving Krishna? I believe I had already narrated the story of how the deity, the most beautiful deity of Shri Radha Vallabhji appeared in Vrindavan. That most beautiful deity of Vallabhji was given by Lord Shiva to his worshipper. When Lord Shiva was pleased with his devotee, he asked him, ask for any blessing. And the devotee of Lord Shiva said, my dear Lord, please give me your dearmost thing. And Lord Shiva gave his worshipable deity of Vallabhji and told that Upasak, please take care of him. And that Upasak down the line gave it to his son-in-law. That's how Harivansh Rai, I believe, is the name of the Acharya who received the deity of Vallabhji from his father-in-law. That's how we got Vallabhji on this planet and in Vrindavan like that. So yes, the Devatas are very pleased when we serve the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So in essence, Bhagavad Gita establishes the personal form of God to be the highest and the most complete manifestation of the Supreme Lord. And to encourage us all make the right choice, now Lord Shri Krishna is going to speak the 9 final verses where the relationship of Lord and Lord's devotee is being addressed. So, one of the last verses on this series, 25th verse, Krishna talks about the destination of different worshippers. Krishna says, those who worship Yanti Devavrata Devan, those who worship Devatas, they go to the abode of Devatas. Those who worship me, Yanti Madhyajino Pimam, they come to my abode. Bhutani Yanti Bhuteja, those who worship Bhutas, Preta, Vishash, Vitar, etc., vampires, they go to their place. Pitrayanti Pitravata, those who worship Pitra, they go to the abode of Pitra, like this. So once again, those who say, you can take any path of worship and you will get the same result, which means the highest abode and highest destination, it is not correct. This is refuted once again. To summarize, demigod worship versus Krishna worship. Demigod worship is a business dealing. Krishna worship is done out of love and service attitude. Demigod worship is impelled by personal motivations, whereas Krishna worship is selfless desire to serve and please Krishna. There are various kind of rules and regulations to worship the devatas, whereas come to Krishna, chant Hare Krishna, and there is no rules and regulation for it. It requires certain amount of qualifications to worship devatas. There has to be a qualified brahmana to perform yajna on our behalf. In Krishna worship, it doesn't matter who we are. Our background does not matter, what kind of life we have lived. What matters is our desire to serve Krishna. No relationship after the worshipper has received a desired benediction. It's not that Brahma was personally involved in guiding. It's interesting. Have you seen any pastime where Lord Shiva came to his worshipper and told, "Oh, this is not the right attitude you are carrying. You should not do like this"? Or have you heard Brahma ever came back to Hiranyakashipu or Ravana to tell them, "Hey Ravana, how dare you kidnap Mother Sita? Don't you know who Sita is?" So that way it's mentioned that there is no relationship. Just like when you go to shopping mall, you purchase something and come back. Shopping owner, the owner does not give a fig about the buyer. He doesn't go and ask how's his well-being and everything. But it is said Krishna gives personal attention to the spiritual upliftment of the devotee, which we'll see now. The demigods are followers and the boons are finished in time. Krishna takes direct interest in the life of his devotees and it never perishes. With this, we come to the last and the most important subject matter of this chapter or of the whole Bhagavad Gita, that is the glories of devotional service. However, before we get into it, any questions on the subject matter that we have discussed about Krishna and Devatas? Yes, Animesh, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Hare Krishna.
Discussing there are 33 core types of devatas, and I have read some or also heard. It is not. I do not want to counter you. There are 33 types rather than 33 cores.
Correct.
It's correct.
See, again, it is based on different understandings. When you say you have read or heard somewhere, you have to ask what is the source of it. Now, on the social media, anyone can type anything, isn't it? There is no scarcity of information these days.
So they're talking of Aditya's, Rudras, and that is all they count it and they say it is 33 types.
Yeah, so this is called as justifying. They are called as Adityas. There are 12 Adityas, 11 Rudras. Like that, they sum up and further 10 number they may be adding, that is coming to 33. So this is the fig of modern day speculation, where they're just trying to somehow justify, that in Hinduism there are not so many gods. Because from the beginning of the time, Hinduism has been criticized for having so many gods. Right now, the reasoning that I gave you, does it make sense to you? And does it seem more logical for the whole universal management to have 33 crore devatas? Is not much actually. Just I gave you an example.
Certainly not.
So that's a fact about it. That 33 koti as 33 types of devatas, it just has been justified just to put forward a point without any shastric reference. It's just a vague justification that way.
Correct.
Once again, you have to understand what is the purpose of devatas. They are administrators. And somebody says there are only 33 administrators for the entire universe. That's too much of a workload for poor administrators. It's a big place to manage. All right. Thank you, Animesh. Ashish, go ahead.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Yes, Mother Gunjan.
Prabhuji, I'm not sure if I heard correctly. You mentioned Shiva Tattva has come from Brahmaji's eyebrow. Is it correct?
Oh, yes. Rudra. Rudra, who is the Sadashiv's expansion in the material world, who is also loosely called as Shiva. What we know of Shiva in the material world is actually in the scripture is called as Rudra. And that Rudra is 11 different forms of Shiva. And the purpose of that Rudra is to cause destruction when the time of annihilation comes.
Okay. So, Prabhuji, my question was, if he has come from, if this Shiva Tattva or Rudra has come from eyebrows of Brahmaji, and Brahmaji is Jiva Tattva.
No. You missed out the first part of the story. Sadashiv is an expansion of Sankarshan. And Sadashiv lives in the spiritual world, at the periphery of spiritual world in Brahman, where there is Kailash. Not the greater Kailash of Delhi, but the Kailash of the spiritual world. Okay? There Sadashiv resides with Mother Parvati. That Parvati is an expansion of Mahalakshmi. And that Sadashiv never comes to the material world. That Sadashiv expands himself in the material world as Rudra, and that Rudra appears through the medium of Brahma. Okay? So that Shiva, see, because Brahma is the first created being, and everyone in the creation have occurred through Brahma. Now you're saying, Prabhuji, Brahma is a Jiva Tattva, how can Shiva Tattva can come? Varadev, who is a Vishnu himself, appeared from Brahma, from the nostril of Brahma. Now Krishna, who is Krishna himself, appeared through Devaki. Isn't it? So I guess we are putting some technicalities of some kind of thing.
I missed that point regarding Shiva.
Yeah. And see, they can appear through any forum now, because there is no conditions applied to them. Conditions apply for our appearance and disappearance. So they can appear through anything in any way. All right. So in one sense, I'll let you know the concept of Shivji is a little complicated to comprehend. It needs, it's difficult to really understand what it means by milk transforming into yogurt and whatnot and all that. But this isn't just, I just want to let you know. I'll give you an example. How Shiva is his creation is for the purpose of destructive, is a destructive potency. All of you have heard of this Samudra Manthan Leela? Now, Samudra Manthan Leela, of which later on we have Kumbh Mela festival. Samudra Manthan Leela, at one point of time before Amrit came halahal, the poison. Lord Vishnu was personally present there. And Lord Vishnu, Devtas went running to Vishnu. It was so poisonous, the whole environment became so poisonous that everyone was dying. Devtas went running to Vishnu. Vishnu is standing on the beach. Now, if you already have Vishnu, Vishnu can sort it out this halal, na? You know what Vishnu told? Go and call Shiva. Tell him that I'm asking him to drink this halal. Now it's interesting. Arey Baba, when you're there already, why are you bringing Shivji? So the Devtas headed by Indra run to Lord Shiva and tell that, Vishnu have requested that you drink or you do the needful thing with the poison. So Lord Shiva comes there and he, by his potency, he collects all the halal in his wrist through his powers and he drinks it. And by his powers, he ensures that poison does not go below his throat. And because of which his kantha becomes Neela. That's the reason he is known as Neelakantha. That poison was meant to destroy the world. And who did Vishnu call in to handling that destruction? Lord Shiva. Because that's his job profile. Indra has a job profile. Brahma has a job profile. Yamraj has a job profile. Everyone have their job profile in the administrative structure. Once again, Sadashiv is different. Just like, I don't know how many of you were aware of Mahavishnu, Garbhodaksha Vishnu, Kshirodaksha Vishnu. Vishnu means only one Vishnu. People didn't knew there are 3 Vishnus. And this is just an introduction of Vishnus. There are unlimited Vishnu in the spiritual world. So similarly, the worship of the devotees of Shiva here are actually of the worship of the Rudra, not of Sadashiv. There are hardly very few devotees of Sadashiv, because for that you have to have a very deep knowledge of scriptures to understand that. Shivling, that is not Sadashiv. That represents Shiv. Shivling, which represents a yoni of a man, is actually is a union of Shiv with Parvati, because of which the creation occurs. So that's again another subject matter, which other religious fanatics they criticize, at least the Shiva worship, that we are worshipping a genital of a man. It's a yoni, Shivling. But what is it? That Shivling is actually represents the union of Lord Shiva with Parvati in the material world, which occurs for the purpose of creation of the material world, because of which all this 8.4 million species comes into existence, the bodies, all these various bodies. So that's the background. So yes, it refers to yoni, correct. But it's not like what we know of in the gross sense. Okay? If I confused you, so be it. You asked the question about Shivji. Hare Krishna. Okay, all right, Mother Gunjan. Madhu. Let's go to Mother Madhu. Please unmute. Hare Krishna. So I guess you're having some difficulty to unmute yourself. Till the time, Mother Subhashri, please go ahead. Okay. Now you're there. Yes, please. Danvashmana.
Yes, this number when we are saying about this 33 cause, is this related to our universe or all universe? Same number?
No, our universe. We're only talking about our universe. Yes.
Maybe other universe number may be different, right?
Quite possible, because everything is different there.
Yes. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Mother Subhashri.
Prabhuji, when we say Brahma the creator, Vishnu the protector, and Maheshwara the destructor, the destroyer, Krishna falls under Vishnu avatar, Narayan, and they're all protectors of me, no? Or how?
No. Krishna does not fall under Vishnu avatar. Vishnu is an expansion of Krishna.
Okay.
So Krishna. Okay, it's an interesting question. Let me answer this. Now, there is a lot of confusion that people have. People think Rama and everyone has come from Vishnu. It is an expansion of Vishnu. Yes, how many of you heard? Vishnu is the original source, and for every all this Vishnu avatar has come from Vishnu. How many of you have kind of heard it? Give me a quick raise of hand, yes or no, something that I know of it. Then I'll speak about it. See, it is correct. Yes, scriptures mention like that. But there is a twist in the story. So all the expansions that occurs in this world, either be Nasimha Dev, Vara Dev, Vamana Dev, any avatar for that reason, up to Lord Ram, in fact, they all come from Shiro Dakshay Vishnu. They all come from Shiro Dakshay Vishnu. That's what categorically scripture says. However, there is a little caveat here, which is when Krishna comes, Shiro Dakshay Vishnu does not expand himself as Krishna. Krishna comes directly from the spiritual world, along with all his associates. Srimati Radharani is not from the material world. Mother Yashoda and Nanda Baba is not from the material world. Now, when Lord Ram comes, all the devatas come along with Lord Ram to accompany his pastime. When Lord Shri Krishna came, again all the devatas came. But Brajavasis, but the Yaduvamsa members, not all were devatas. Many were eternal residents of Goloka. Govardhan came, Mother Jamuna came. They all are, Vrinda Devi came. They all are eternal residents of Vrindavan, Goloka Vrindavan. They come down here to be part of Lord's pastime. Like that. So Krishna comes personally, whereas everyone else is an expansion of Shiro Dakshay Vishnu. So yes, it is mentioned, and there's a reason.
The avatar of Vishnu, and the last avatar is the Kalki. Krishna and the Kalki.
What is that? Say that again.
That Vishnu, the Dashavatar of Vishnu ends with the Krishna avatar and the Kalki avatar.
The Dasha avatar, the 10th avatar. See, what is the story of Dasha avatar? This is a prayer written about the 10 incarnations. But Vishnu does not have 10 incarnations. He has unlimited incarnations. Srimad Bhagavatam, first canto, third chapter mentions around 24 avatars, like that. Again, this subject matter of avatar is a technical subject matter. There are 6 varieties of expansion. There is a Guna avatar, there is a Yuga avatar, there is a Manvantara avatar, Guna avatar, Yuga avatar, Shakti Avesh avatar. Like that, there are 6 varieties of avatars that happens. So avatars are many. That is a song written just glorifying the 10 prominent avatars. That is not the all in all. Asankhya, unlimited expansions of the Lord. Okay? So let's
So,
move.
Prabhuji, one more question. When Dashavatar was made in the era of Ramayana itself, and then when Mahabharata, the epic, it was already had completed, is it, in that Ramayana era itself, all the avatars, or only when the Mahabharata chapter started, it concluded with that, is it? Can we take Ramayana and Mahabharata as the same, it came in the same era? How?
Oh, no. Ramayana happened in Treta Yuga. Mahabharata happened in Dwapar Yuga. And first of all, actually 10th canto, there is a reference comes, which clarifies Lord Ram did not appear even in this Treta Yuga. Lord Ram did not appear in this Treta Yuga itself. Lord Ram had come in previous Mahayuga, Treta Yuga. There is a mention where it is said by Gargamuni to Mother Yashoda that your son in the previous Treta Yuga had appeared as Ram, not the last Treta Yuga. In the previous Treta Yuga, which means in the previous Mahayuga. So I'm getting into more technicalities of it, but just to tell you high level thing. So Treta Yuga is Lord Ram, Dwapar Yuga is Lord Shri Krishna. Okay. So before I take any other questions, let me make a disclaimer. It is 7:55. We have not yet come on to the most confidential subject. So let's take a quick vote here. I'm gonna talk about on the most confidential subject of, which I really wanted to spend time on, but looks like we don't have much time. But I'll still try to do some justice because I consider it the most important subject. So how much extra time I can take? Can I take 20 minutes more to do some justice, or you feel like, oh my goodness, enough is enough now? 1 घंटे का punishment कम था, जब 1 घंटे 20 मिनट सताए रहिए. So what's your call? You have to give me a quick vote. Yes, no, yes.
Yes,
If it's bearable, okay, we go for another 20 minutes. And if it is not bearable, anyways, I can't hold you. You can always sign out. What can I do? I'll have to go continue today. Only thing is, I would go to that much detail, so I'll just touch on the subject. That's the reason I was asking about it. Okay, and I'll come back to those pending questions in a short while with that. Fine. So let's begin with our presentation. Let's come to the last section, 26 verse. Patram pushpam phalam toyam yo me bhaktya prachati tadam bhakti ubhritam ashnami prayatat manaha. Somebody please read out the translation. Do you have the right to unmute yourself, by the way? Oh yeah. So now you all have the right to unmute yourself. Whoever wants to speak, they can read out the translation. 1 second, Prabhu. The slide became blank. Please go ahead.
If one offers me with love and devotion a leaf, a flower, a fruit, or water, I will accept it.
Krishna says, Bhakti is so simple. You don't have to offer me some very expensive things and a very costly, utensils. Just offer me leaf, water, fruits. I'll be happy. But there is a condition. That must be given with bhakti, with love. Only when it is offered with love, then I will accept it. Otherwise, why would Krishna need all this thing? Who has provided us all this thing? Who has provided us water? Who has provided us fruits, leaf and everything? It's all provided with the Lord. It's just like going into the Ganges and taking a palm full of Ganges water and offering back to Ganges. Is that something we're doing a lot for her? No. So, text 26. So, what type of sacrifice Lord desires to be offered? Krishna says, if we love Krishna, then offer Krishna whatever Krishna wants. We should not offer Krishna what Krishna does not want. So, what should we offer? Krishna says vegetarian food, vegetarian diet. We should not offer any non-vegetarian things like egg, meat, alcohol, etc., because that's not what Krishna demands. Why offer? Krishna says in 3rd chapter, verse number 13, if you eat even a vegetarian diet, but if it is not offered, then it incurs sin. You are liable to incur sin for that. And why offer? Because ultimately everything belongs to him. And what is the problem in offering? Does Krishna take the half of the portion or eats the whole prasadam? No. He in fact purifies, removes all the dosha from it and makes it into a spiritual energy, which when we consume it, our mind, our body becomes vibrant and healthy. When we offer something to Krishna and then accept it, we become happy. So what's the problem in not offering? What should be the attitude while offering? Krishna says, love. What should one offer? As we have discussed, we should offer only vegetable diet prepared with a nice service attitude. So sometimes people ask, does Krishna really eat? Yeah, why not Krishna eat? Krishna eats. If it is offered with love, Krishna eats. Look at the picture, you see Shabri. What did Shabri offer to Krishna? Our Lakshman was shocked. He looked at Lord Ram, he said, Lord, don't you see what is she doing? This old lady, she is eating every bear and then she is offering her juta. Lord Ram said, keep quiet. You don't know what's her devotion. Let me give you another example. Mahabharata, Lord Krishna comes as Shanti Dut. Duryodhana prepares the most fabulous meal for Krishna and arranges Krishna's accommodation as the most opulent palace of Hastinapur, that was Dushasan's palace. Lord Shri Krishna rejects all this kind of hospitality. Krishna enters into the house of Vidura. Vidura was not present. Vidurani, wife of Vidura, was shocked to see Krishna suddenly appearing there. And Krishna said, Maya, I am hungry, give me something. And Vidurani, in her excitement and surprise, didn't know what to do. She ran to the kitchen, there was nothing to offer. She brought a bunch of bananas and she began to peel the bananas and began to offer the banana peel to Krishna. She was throwing the pulp into the dustbin, was offering the banana peel to Krishna, and Lord Shri Krishna was happily eating the banana peel until Vidura entered. And when Vidura entered and when he saw this kind of an exchange, he was extremely shocked. And he said, Vidurani, what are you doing? Have you gone crazy? You're feeding Krishna the banana leaf and you're throwing away the pulp like that. So like that, Lord Shri Krishna, as Krishna says, I accept, but with love. Vidurani, just like Shabri, offered with her love, therefore Lord Shri Krishna accepted. That is the point about it. So people ask, does Krishna eat? Yes. The question here has been asked, Krishna eats, is primarily being asked in case of the deity of Krishna would eat. There are many examples, we don't have time to go into details. Whenever in future we'll do the detailed study verse by verse, then I'll give you stories after story of how even up to today time, when you offer to Krishna, Krishna deities eat. But we'll skip some of those stories for the future detailed session. Then Arjuna pondered, what should one do if he is not able to perform pure devotional? If I don't have that bhakti attitude only, my dear Lord, what should I do then? So Krishna said, no problem. Perform Nishkam Karma Yoga. Yad karosi, yad asnasi, yad chuhosi, dadasiyat. Yad tapasyasi kanteya, tat kurashvamad arpanam. Whatever you do, hey Arjuna, whatever you eat, whatever you give away in charity, and whatever austerities you perform, it should be done for me in service. Whatever you eat, offer me first. Whatever you do, do it as a service for me. Whatever charity you give, once again, do it as a service to me, which means for encouraging and promoting Krishna conscious literatures and spreading the message of Lord Shri Krishna. Whatever austerities you perform, it should be for me. So what is the difference between in offerings of pure devotees and us? The offerings of pure devotee in us, there is only difference in the quality of our devotion that we carry. So here Krishna talks about, if you cannot do with bhakti, at least do Nishkam Karma Yoga. Your religious duties, your eating, your charity, your austerity should be everything done as a service for me. I'd like to give a short example of a young man who got connected couple of months ago during the second wave when I was doing the Dealing with COVID Crisis program based on Bhagavad Gita, almost a month-long event which we organized. He got connected. He got very inspired. He read through Bhagavad Gita when we taught him. And after that, today itself, I got a message from another student that he has purchased 250 copies of Bhagavad Gita. Now, I was really surprised. Why would anyone purchase so many copies? People these days don't even purchase a single copy of Bhagavad Gita. So I told the student of mine, please, can you arrange for a call? Who is this gentleman? I had spoke to him, then I realized that he got connected to us a few months before, and that's how his Krishna consciousness began. And then I asked him, what inspired you? Or why have you purchased so many books? He gives a very, very profound answer. And I told him after hearing him, I said, Prabhu, you are inspiring me. I have been giving classes online morning, evening for all this while, literally non-stop for the last 1.5 years. And of course, we came across some very, very incredible personalities. And I said, you're one of those incredible personalities who is inspiring me by your charitable disposition and service attitude. What is the profound answer? If time permits, I'll play the video. Our devotees had recorded our conversation. You can hear he himself speaking of what he wishes to do with 250 copies of Bhagavad Gita that he has just purchased today. So we'll come back to him later on. If time permits, I'll play his recording. So that was on the Nishkam Karma Yoga. So what will be the result if somebody performs Nishkam Karma Yoga? The result is, Krishna says, freedom. Shubha Shubh Phale Revam Mokshasi Karma Bandhane Sannyasa Yoga Yukta Atma Vimuktama Upashyasi. Which means one gets moksha, liberation, and second, realization of Lord Shri Krishna. Then Arjuna thought, my dear Lord, you seem to be very kind to your devotees. You know, you give them liberation, you give them love for yourself. So are you biased? So bear with me, some of the slides are in Hindi because apparently some of my English slides got deleted while moving data from one laptop to another. So I'll have few slides in Hindi now. So Krishna said, Arjuna, no, not at all. 29th verse, Samoham sarva bhuteshu name dveshyasina priya evajanti tuma bhaktya maitateshu chapiyam. And Krishna said, मैं ना तो किसी से द्वेष करता हूँ. Let me speak in English. Krishna said, I do not envy anyone, nor do I love anyone. I am equal to all. However, ye bhajanti tu maam bhaktya, one who approaches me with devotion, he always resides in me and I always resides in him. In other words, Krishna said, I am equal to all. But, Krishna says, apiche suduracharo bhajate maam ananya bhak. Mind you, we're discussing about the most confidential subject of Bhagavad Gita, the intricacies of relationship between Krishna and his devotees. Sadhureva samantavya samyak vaivasito hisa. Apiche suduracharo, Krishna says, even if one commits the most abominable act, bhajate maam ananya bhak, but he is steady in his devotion, he is firm in his devotion unto me, sadhureva samantavya, he should be considered a sadhu, samyak vaivasito hisa. Why? Because he is not deterred, or he has not got distracted in his determination to serve me. So the point is, Srila Prabhupada explains, the Lord Shri Krishna forgives his devotees. Knowing the fact that we are like a small toddler means toddler is always small. I mean to say, we are like a toddler who are trying to climb up and walk. And in our attempts to climb up and walk, we're going to fall. But it should not be intentional. If it is accidental, Krishna is willing to forgive all and anything. But we should not intentionally commit sinful activities thinking that, oh, what's a big deal? After all, Krishna has promised he would forgive us. So Prabhupada says, do not take advantage. And in this context, there is a very beautiful letter. It will take maybe 3-4 minutes to read out the whole letter. So will that be okay? We read out. So I'll request one mother and one Prabhu to read it. So this letter has been written by a mother. So maybe when Mother Subhashi, if you want to read, you can read this out. And for a man, maybe any one of you want to read, you can just raise your hand, and then you can read out what Prabhupada responded to this lady. So this is a lady who met some devotees on the streets in America, and she's complaining to Srila Prabhupada about their demeanor and behavior, about the young disciples of Srila Prabhupada. So we're talking about how Krishna is forgiving. So how Srila Prabhupada also was forgiving and tolerant. Please read out, Mother.
In 1973, Srila Prabhupada received an unusual letter from a woman in California who had encountered two of his young disciples. She complained that they had a very negative outlook toward the people they meet. Moved by her genuine concern, Srila Prabhupada took time out from his busy schedule to write her this thoughtful letter. Your Grace, please accept this letter with love, K. Mark, San Fernando. We have talked with two of your boys at different times. Both had a very negative outlook toward the people they meet. Do not believe this is in any way as it should be. These boys happen to represent God. This comes from within. Their outlook must have mercy. We realize this, therefore, handpick these little pieces of heaven to place in the middle of these people, or else it will defeat your purpose. Love is, let it be as it is, with love or not at all. My prayers will be with you, and I beg yours with me. Yours and God, blessed be, Lynn Ludwig.
So in essence, she is complaining that here are two disciples who we met at two different times seem to have a very negative outlook about life. They need to be more compassionate and kind towards people rather than being harsh in their outlook towards people in general. So let's see what Prabhupada said. Anyone would like to read here?
Okay. It says, my dear Lynn Ludwig, please accept my blessings. I beg to acknowledge the receipt of your letter from California, and I have noted the contents carefully. Although due to extensively traveling and preaching in a tour in India, I have not had the opportunity to reply to you at length until now. Your complaint is that you have met two of my young disciples in California, and they appear to you to have a very negative outlook toward the people they meet. Of course, I do not know the case and what the circumstances are, but kindly forgive my beloved disciples for any unkindness or indiscretion on their part. After all, to give up one's life completely for serving the Lord is not an easy thing, and Maya, or the illusory material energy, tries especially hard to again entrap those who have left her service to become devotees. Therefore, in order to withstand the attack of Maya and remain strong under all conditions of temptation, young or inexperienced devotees in the neophyte stage of devotional service will sometimes adopt an attitude against those things or persons which may possibly be harmful or threatening to their tender devotional creepers. They may even overindulge in such feelings just to protect themselves, and thus they will appear to some non-devotees who are perhaps themselves still very much enamored by the material energy of Maya to be negative or pessimistic. But the actual fact is that the material
is a miserable negative place full of danger at every step. It is the Khalayam Shashvatam, a temporary abode of death, birth, disease, and old age. A home of suffering and pain only. To come to the platform understanding these things as they are is not very common. Therefore, persons who attain to it are described as great souls. Please continue reading, Ashish Prabhu.
Okay. The devotee whose life is surrendered to Krishna is always enjoying great satisfaction and bliss, and he is constantly enlightened, always positive, not negative, as you say. The advanced devotee is the friend of everyone. These are descriptions of the more advanced stages of Krishna consciousness that devotees get by development of mature knowledge. At present, many of our students are young boys. They are learning gradually, and the process is so effective, certain, and authorized that if they stick to it, they will come to the right point, as you say, of loving. But that love is not material, so it should not be judged on the false sentimental platform of ordinary mundane dealings. That is our point. Therefore, to say they are not loving may be true from the materialist point of view. They have given up affection for family, friends, wife, country, race, and so on, which is all based upon the bodily concept of life or flickering sense gratification. They have become a little detached from Maya's love or lust, and they want Krishna's love or endless, fully rewarding love. But they have not yet developed to that point. That is all. We cannot accept that all of a sudden your countrymen who are addicted to so many bad habits will give up eating flesh, taking intoxicants, having illicit sex life, and so many other nasty things, and overnight become self-realized souls. That is not possible. That is utopian.
Amazing, huh? Prabhupada have taken out so much time to write such a detailed letter. And here comes the last page of it. Please read out.
Yeah. But just being initiated as Krishna's devotee puts one in the topmost category of human society. Sa buddhinam manushesha sa yuktaha kritsena karma krit. He is intelligent in human society. He is in the transcendental position, although engaged in all sorts of activities. And although such a devotee may not have yet advanced to the highest level of spiritual understanding, still he is to be considered the most exalted personality regardless of any temporary frailty.
So this is the verse that we just are discussing, you know. So Prabhupada is quoting the same verse. Please read out beyond the Sanskrit.
Apichetsu duracharo bhajate mam ananya bhag sadhur eva sa mantavya samyag vyavasito hisaha. Even if a devotee commits the most abominable action, he is to be considered saintly because he is properly situated, as you will say, to err is human. Therefore, in the neophyte stage, we may always expect some discrepancies. Kindly see the thing in this light and forgive their small mistakes. The big thing is that they have given everything, given their lives to Krishna, and that is never a mistake. Your ever well-wisher, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
I mean, of course, I don't know if I should ask what did you learn from this letter, but one thing I'll say, you saw how Prabhupada, corrected the perspective of that lady towards the flaws that she saw. And he presented the case in such a right manner. And Prabhupada acknowledged there is a flaw, but Prabhupada also said the flaw is also there, you're able to see because of your own attachments towards this material life. So nonetheless, we are discussing how Krishna is forgiving, and so does the pure devotee of the Lord is forgiving. So there are more to it. We'll discuss that later on. Let's come to some of the concluding part of the discussion. How can a devotee do sudachara, any sinful activities? There is a conditional and constitutional duty. Conditional means affected by the modes of material nature. So because of past bad habits and tendencies, sometimes people have a relapse when they're put into that environment which reminds them of the past bad habits. So accidentally, sometimes there could be a unfortunate incident can occur because of that. So what is his position after committing the abominable act? No, he is not disqualified. Krishna, that's a temporary fall on, does not disqualify him. Krishna says whatever it is, if he takes to bhakti and continues bhakti, he is rectified. So the only qualification, what matters in bhakti, is unflinching and exclusively engaged in devotion service. We don't have this much leisure and what you can say levi or concession in any of the path, jnana or ashtanga yoga. One fall down, that's the end of it. There is no way of recovering from it. So what should be others' attitude in seeing him? We should not find fault with the other person, because trying to find fault with that person is like deriding the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who himself says we should be kind to such a person like that. So these are more details. We'll discuss this into the thorough study of Bhagavad Gita, but just wanted to give you a little synopsis about the relationship between the Lord. Coming to the last few points. So Arjun was not happy. He said, my dear Lord, how can we consider him to be a sadhu? Krishna says, Shipram bhavati dharmatma shashvachandi gacchati kanteha praticanihi same bhakta pranashyati name bhakta pranashyati. Arjuna, Shipram bhavati dharmatma, very soon he becomes a dharmatma. Arjuna was not happy. My dear Lord, how can we cannot accept him? He has committed a sinful activity. How can he say he becomes a Mahatma? Krishna, with angry eyes, he said, Arjuna, declare boldly to the world, Name Bhakta Pranashyati. Arjuna said, why, dear Lord, why should I declare? They're your devotees, you declare. Then Krishna said, Arjuna, for the sake of my devotees, I will break my own promises, but never ever I would allow the promise of my devotee be broken. Therefore, you make a promise. So here is the key. Here is the most confidential aspect, or the sweetest aspect of the relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Whatever Krishna does is only to please and fulfill the desire of his devotees. For example, why did Krishna become a charioteer? To please Arjuna, isn't it? Why did Narasimha Dev did not kill Hiranyakashipu, with a weapon, by Sudarshan Chakra? Why he had to operate him with his own nails? Because he wanted to keep the commitment of Brahmaji fulfilled. If you see, why did Krishna, 7 years, 7 months, 7-day-old boy, lifted Govardhan Hill for 7 straight days? Because every Gopa and Gopi had a complaint that Krishna goes away into the forest in the morning and comes late in the evening. So they were deprived of the darshan of Lord for all through the day. And then the cows, the calves, the monkeys, the peacocks, the other the other forest creatures, as well as the Gopas, the friends, young cowherd friends, and the Gopis, the friends of Krishna, had a complaint that we cannot have his darshan in the night. He goes to be with his parents. So everyone had this desire that they wanted to have darshan of Krishna all through. Therefore, Lord lifted Govardhan Hill and fulfilled the desire of every living entity in Vrindavan by giving his darshan 7 days, 7 nights. Why did Krishna got bound by Ukkal? Because Mother Yashoda wanted to bind him. Why did Lord Shri Krishna uprooted the 2 Yamal Arjuna trees in the courtyard of Nand Maharaj? Because Narad Muni wanted him. Why did Krishna give bhakti the highest position to 2 Dankars, Nal Kuvera Manigriva? That was a desire of Narad Muni. If you look at it, why did Krishna perform a Rasa Leela? That was a desire of the gopis in the Madhurya Ras. If you look at it, I have been saying again and again repeatedly, the confrontational nature of the Lord and his devotees' relationship is such, it is very difficult to understand who is the master and who is the servant. Everyone in this relationship wants to serve. Krishna wants to act whatever his devotee wants him to do. And devotees want to act whatever Krishna wants him to do. Why did Arjuna fight the war? Because Krishna wanted him. Why did Krishna become a charioteer? Because Arjuna wanted him. And that is the beauty of a relationship with the Supreme Personality of Godhead. So whatever Krishna does is somehow or other is only and always to fulfill the desire. Not only this, Krishna never ever takes credit. Krishna always gives credits. Krishna gave credit of the whole war of Mahabharata to Arjuna. Krishna gave credit to Bhishma Pitama by encouraging, inspiring Bhishma Pitama to speak to Yudhishthira to pacify his heart, which Krishna could have done it by himself. Krishna likes his devotees to get glorified. If Krishna wanted, as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he could have traveled all over the world and could have established Krishna Bhakti, but Krishna wanted Srila Prabhupada to get that credit. And he allowed Srila Prabhupada to travel all over the world and establish this ISKCON. So if you see, that is the nature of a relationship between the Supreme Personality of Godhead and Krishna. Krishna always, in other words, fulfills the desires of his devotees, or performs all his actions, in other words, just to fulfill the desire of his devotees. With this, we come to the conclusion of today's chapter, where now Krishna concludes with the most confidential and important verse. Manmana bhavamad bhaktamadhyajima namaskaru mamevashasi yuktvaivam atmana matparayana, which is called the essence of all essence, which means absorbing oneself in Krishna consciousness, engaging one's mind, becoming Krishna's devotee. Madhyaji, which means Madhyaji, worshipping the Supreme Personality God, Namaskaru, offering one's respect to the Lord like that. So how it all begins with engaging one's mind in serving Krishna. So which begins with chanting the holy names of the Lord, following the 4 regulated principles, eating Krishna prasadam, and taking to service. If there is a service opportunity that comes, then rendering some service for the pleasure of Guru and Gauranga. That is how our mind becomes absorbed in Krishna. With this, we come to the conclusion of today's chapter. Thank you all for being a patient listener and attentive listener all this while. Tomorrow we continue our discussion. We'll be having a discussion from the 10th chapter of Bhagavad Gita, where now Krishna will talk about his opulences, a chapter right before the Virat Roop Darshan. Another very, very important subject matter, which we shall see tomorrow. So with all this, thank you all for your kind attention and joining us today evening. Jagadguru Srila Prabhupada ki, Bhagavad Gita ki jai. If there are any questions, we can take that. Or in case if any one of you are...
The acronym G is what, Prabhuji?
Sorry?
The acronym for G is what?
The acronym for G is the glories of Bhakti.
Oh, okay, thank you, Prabhu.
Krishna Chandra Prabhu, you're saying something?
Yeah, Prabhu, yesterday's recording was actually May recording, Prabhu.
Yeah, actually, sorry, my schedules are very hectic. There was no time for me. So I told them to share the previous recording. I didn't know how many people are watching the recording. Therefore, whatever we are doing now, the recordings, will publish it after this whole series get over. So right now we are sharing the old recordings, which has been done in the May. So after this episode gets over by 9th or 10th, from 12th onward, we'll start publishing all these recordings again on the YouTube channel.
Thank you, Prabhu.
Okay.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji.
Who is speaking, please?
Smita, Prabhuji.
Yes, mother.
Hare Krishna.
Boliye, I can listen.
This question comes to you from my son.
Okay.
And that is why Bhagavad Gita has everywhere I. Does this not mean that he is very egoistic? What do we answer?
How old is your son?
23.
Oh, 23. Okay, makes sense. I thought maybe some 8-10-year-old boy is asking. So are you going to convey this answer to your son, or your son is going to listen to this recording later on?
Any which way, both ways.
Okay. Yes. So what's his name, by the way?
Sahil.
So Sahil, when I read Bhagavad Gita for the first time, which was back in 2007, I was a student in America doing my master's. When I first read it, I also felt the same thing. Everywhere, Krishna, Krishna, Krishna. It became so unbearable for me to read. I was like, why Krishna is overemphasizing Krishna, Krishna? One is in the translation and one in the purport where Prabhupada says, surrender to Krishna, like that. And then one day, I was rereading the introduction of Bhagavad Gita. And in that introduction of Bhagavad Gita, Prabhupada writes, the message of Bhagavad Gita is meant only for the devotees of Krishna. Which means, for example, let's say Sahil, right? You said Sahil is his name, correct? Just like hypothetically, I don't mean to say anything, but I'm just making an example. Imagine Sahil has a girlfriend. Sahil loves a girl. Or let's not look at that. Let's say Sahil loves his mother Smita. Because he loves his mother Smita, but naturally he's going to speak about Smita, his mother, to everyone. My mother is so wonderful. She took care of me so nice. She cooks so nicely. She's so loving, etc., etc. It's but natural. Whom you love about, you speak about. So one thing about Prabhupada purpose is Prabhupada loves Krishna, so therefore Prabhupada speaks about surrendering to Krishna right from the very beginning. Second thing, Lord Shri Krishna already categorically establishes for whom this message of Bhagavad Gita is meant. Krishna, through the message of Bhagavad Gita, is speaking about himself. Krishna categorically says, I am speaking about myself. Therefore, Arjuna, I am giving this knowledge to you because you are non-envious of me. When there is an envy in the heart, then we cannot accept, others' glorification, or where other person talks about oneself. For Arjuna, he did not, I'm just saying how I felt in the beginning myself, just like Sahil is feeling. If you look at it, Arjuna did not even once ask this question to Krishna, hey Krishna, why are you talking so much about yourself? But if this message of Bhagavad Gita is spoken to Duryodhan, Duryodhan would have left halfway only. बोलेगा ये तो बहुत बोल रहा है कृष्णा कृष्णा करके. So message of Bhagavad Gita is about Krishna. Krishna is speaking about himself. And that is the uniqueness of Bhagavad Gita, because Bhagavad Gita is the only Vedic scripture or only religious book in the whole creation where the words have been spoken directly by the Lord. The Bible is a word spoken by Christ to Jesus, and Jesus is conveying that further. Same is the Quran. They become the messenger of the God. But Bhagavad Gita is the only book where Krishna, the Supreme Personality Godhead, is describing the Supreme Personality of Godhead. Therefore, there Krishna speaks about himself. And therefore we find about, again and again, surrender unto me. Because that's the conversation. That's the whole subject matter of how do we take shelter of Krishna, being described by Lord Shri Krishna himself. Is that okay, Mother Smita?
Yes, Prabhuji, but this is unacceptable to him that I should be, because non-envious is out of question. Now the I is so big that this is, it is non-receptive. Is not in the receptive mode. And that's the reason, because though this is fine that I am saying, it is about me, I would say. But why is he expecting? Offer me. Remember me. So envious, he's saying about me. I say, what's the problem? Because I'm also a part-time parcel coming from him only.
So, as I said, when I first read it, because of envy in my heart, it became very unacceptable for me. But when I took to the process of bhakti, as Prabhupada writes, the message of Bhagavad Gita is meant for devotees. When I took to the process of bhakti, which means the chanting of the holy names of the Lord, then gradually my heart also got purified and it got fixed. I didn't feel so perturbed. In my first reading, I was so perturbed, as just like Sahil is feeling, I was also feeling the same way. Why so much I? Because I was missing out the biggest point. Krishna is speaking about himself, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That what the living entities should be doing to re-establish their relationship with the Lord. And not that Lord only speaks about that, Lord also speaks about how He's contributing in the lives of the living entities. We have discussed that in the 5th chapter, 3 doers, how Krishna said, Arjuna, I permit. When Krishna is all pervasive and when Krishna is speaking, then He's gonna say, I am doing it now. Just like Sahil comes and talk to his mother, Mother Smita. So Mother Smita, if she has to speak about herself, then she will say, that Sahil, I did this for you. Sahil, I cooked for you. You're not gonna speak, Sahil, your mother did like this for you. Or your mother cooked for you like this. You are his mother. So you're gonna say, I did it. So Krishna is our Supreme Father, Supreme Mother. So Krishna says, I did it. Or do it this for me. Which makes sense that way. All right. You can ask him, inspire him a little bit to chant, or give him my example. My consciousness also got fixed when I started chanting 2 rounds. So somehow or other he should chant. Where are you from, Mother Smita?
Pune, Prabhuji.
Where in Pune?
Close to NVCC.
Oh, okay. So when I come to NVCC, maybe if possible, you can ask Sahil to meet me if he's in Pune only.
Sure, Prabhuji. Why not?
We will connect.
This has increased my, of course, it's my duty. I need to feed him more of prasadam, which is not happening on a regular basis.
Please do so. How far are you from NVCC? So means you regularly visit NVCC?
Yes, but myself alone, not him. He is too reluctant to visit because he's grown up earlier. He used to accompany, but no, not now.
Okay, I'll find out your contact and I'll ping you in case if you have my contact. Just ping me. I believe on this Friday I'm visiting temple.
Okay.
Just see if I can meet Sahil. I'd like to meet him once.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Prabhu. Let me see how we can make it. Because he's too reluctant. Wherever Prabhujis are, he knows. Prabhuji, by the way, he knows Kanai Thakur Prabhu personally.
Okay,
He's been a part of debates long time back.
okay.
But now he had some questions, so he has called some Prabhuji, and he's a Grahastha staying in Golok next to NVCC.
Okay.
And this person found out his number and whatever, and he asked him some question. And Prabhuji so nicely, instead of he answering whether he knew or not knew, he showed the way of DYS. He said, "Why don't you join this DYS? You'll get all the answers there." He said, then he asked me, "Your mother would know it seems." Then he's saying, "What is DYS?" I said, "Okay, I will enroll you there. Let me see how when the classes are."
All right. So good.
And he was around 10 years old, probably I remember, 2010, 11 somewhere. He has attended, very small. He has attended DYS
So he's become
in Bihari.
so
Long time I'm talking about.
yeah, he's become half cooked. He needs to be full cooked.
Yes. And then after that, Sangha is gone, and he has, with different influence and everything, now it's very close to as much as an atheist, as
Correct,
much
correct.
as.
Tell him I love atheists. I love to meet him.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you so much for it.
Hare Krishna. Madhu.
Actually, I have one last question. Can I ask? One last
Yes,
question.
Mother Subhashi. Madhu Prabhu, I believe he's saying something. I'll just come back to Mother Subhashi. Is that okay?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna, Prabhu. I want to make a comment.
Yeah. Yes, please.
Even though Lord Krishna is saying that I am everything, still the impersonalists are saying that the Brahman within Krishna is speaking, not Krishna speaking.
Correct.
Even though Krishna is saying that I am doing all these things.
Yeah.
So if that I is not there, then what will be the interpretation?
Correct. True. So true. So it's all envy that drives. Despite Krishna saying, "Do to me," they still reject Krishna's position. And when those who read "I," then they question, "Why I?" So that's ultimately boils down to envy. And as I said, we all have it. I also experienced that within my heart when first I read it. But fine, chanting does the needful thing. Great, Mother Subhashri, please go ahead.
Yeah, Guru, Prabhuji, I have seen somewhere in, I don't know whether this is true or not, it's a grammatical error or it is, this text what we are reading is Bhagavad Gita as it is, right?
Yes.
But I don't know, maybe why the movie showed it as Bhagavad Gita as it was. Is it something like that also?
Movie? Which movie?
Yeah, some Rajinikanth movie. He was reading that, and I was shocked to see that Bhagavad Gita as it was.
I have no clue. It's been ages since I watched a movie.
I don't know. I was really shocked. I mean, only Prabhupada's book I have seen as it is. It is as it is, right? It's not
Yeah.
as it was. So I don't know why they put that dramatically.
That's the reason movies are meant to be fiction. Don't take it seriously. Whatever the show, you see it and you reject it.
I was reading that book and I was shocked. How could they project that?
Movies with this cinematic, they can do anything and everything. I have no clue about it. So I don't know what
So I had to go
was.
back to the textbook and see whether it is as it is, as it is. I was staring at it. No, it is as it is only. It's not as it was.
Maybe they were driving some crazy point. All right. So thank you all. You all can watch that video. I believe our devotee will share about that, the young man, how he felt transformed and what he intends to do with 250 copies of Bhagavad Gita. As a profound answer, do listen to it. I guess they'll share on the WhatsApp. You can hear there. You can watch it in your leisure. Thank you so much, and we shall meet tomorrow evening for the 10th episode. Hare Krishna. Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai.